The goal in your life is not to figure out how to be comfortable in your mental prisons, but to realize that you have the keys to set yourself free. Hey everybody, welcome to How to Be Mesmerizing. It's Tim Shurr, and today we have a very mesmerizing guest. Cliff Ravenscraft is here with us today. Cliff, welcome to the program. Yay!
Tim, thank you so much. I am so honored to be here, and it's great to meet you. We were just talking before you hit the record button, how we came across one another, and it's just funny how it all works out. You interview somebody that I know. I see that in my news feed. I comment. You see that. I love it. I love the internet.
Yes, me too, because we were both looking for ways to add value and support people and care about people. You know, you can use the internet in a lot of different ways. And the way that we connected is because we were both putting kindness and value out into the world. And then when that happens, you tend to attract other people that are like-minded and that want to continue to help and serve and support. And that's really, I mean, that's already a lesson. That's already a gold nugget. You know,
yeah, we can finish. We're done.
Yeah. So everybody, thanks for being a part of the show, and we'll see you next time.
Mic drop.
That's right. So remember that, you know, when you're out there, the more value you bring, the more valuable you become. And then you start to get to hang out with amazing people like Cliff. And so I'm really honored that you made time in your busy schedule to be here with us. So thank you.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I just want to point out, because, and I know we've already covered it, but the idea, this is just occurring to me, the idea of reciprocity has always been a big deal to me. The fact that we're innately, something inside of us, we're drawn to always want to return value for value. Or actually, reciprocity isn't all about good stuff. The theory of reciprocity is if somebody, like when I was a kid in elementary school, I don't know if you know this, but I used to be this little fat kid. I was the only non-Catholic in an all-Catholic school, and so I was picked on all the time. And every now and then some kid would come up and he would shove me. Mm-hmm. And I had this desire within myself to shove him back. That, my friends, is called the theory of reciprocity, to give and return. But the thing is the theory of reciprocity is cool because it always works in such a way that I didn't desire to say, let me evaluate just how much pressure did he push? No, I wanted to actually make sure I gave him more in return than what he gave me. And the positive of this is that if somebody unexpectedly gives me a gift out of nowhere, it's not my birthday, it's not a holiday, they say, hey, I was thinking about you while I was on a trip and I saw this in the store and it made me think of you and I bought this for you. Yeah. And there's something inside of you that just wants to give something in return, but not something of equal value, but more. Yeah. And so what we're talking about sometimes is just putting out into the world, adding value to others. It comes back to you. Yeah. But what you and I have experienced and how we've connected takes it to a whole different realm, because usually the theory of reciprocity ends at what comes in you want to give out. And it's usually an exchange between two people. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is that you and I have a mutual friend that we both care about a great deal. Mm-hmm. You were investing in him in a very powerful way because of, I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind that Christopher Voss has invested in you. He's given to you because that's just who he is. Mm-hmm. And you wanted to give back to him. And then all of a sudden I came along and I have a desire to return value back to Christopher for all the value he's given me. And what's interesting is you saw the value that I was giving and it's like, well, what I like that. I want more people like that in my life. And so I don't know what.
I love it. What you reinforce, you get more of. And
yes.
So what you're talking about is taking these universal laws and using them intentionally in your life. And so many times people, and I know you see this, people will ask for something. And then let's say they're in a marriage and you've got a husband and wife, and the wife's been asking the husband to do something for a long time. And so finally, let's say take the garbage out. So he finally takes the garbage out, and then he's looking for that pat on the back, even though he shouldn't need that. But he's looking for the pat on the back. And then she said, well, you should have done that to begin with. I shouldn't have to tell you. And then what's happening is that he doesn't take the garbage out the next day. because you should be reinforcing what it is that you want more of. And we do a terrible job of that. And so whenever I see anybody doing random acts of kindness or intentional acts of kindness, I always want to sprinkle some sunshine on that, because I want it to grow, because we need more of that. And so when you're doing that intentionally and you're looking for ways to catch people doing things right, instead of this culture where we're in, where we're always looking to catch people wrong and to bust them out, if you can catch people doing things right, you're going to get more of that. And so, yeah, 100% agree with what you're saying.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm picking up what you're laying down, brother. So how did you become so well-known and respected and loved as a transformational coach, as someone who knows how to get into people's heads and hearts and upgrade their beliefs and get them playing life at a bigger level? I obviously, it must have come from, you took the pain and adversity in your life and then used it, to become the guy that you are today. So can you give me a synopsis of how that happened?
Sure. I would say it all started out with a TV show, Lost, on television back in 2005. My wife introduced me to it. And at the same time, in 2005, I discovered podcasting. I'm an early adopter of technology. I had subscribed to a bunch of different podcasts related to the TV show Lost, and I had started blogging about it. And then all of a sudden, I decided to take one of my theories that I blogged about, and I recorded a 3.5-minute audio clip of my voice and emailed that audio file off to the transmission, Ryan and Jen Azawa in Hawaii. They played my audio feedback in their podcast, which had tens of thousands of subscribers. And all of a sudden, I'm like this giddy little schoolgirl. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's my voice. It's like, it reminds me of when I was in elementary school and I used to call in and request a song on the radio, and they would tape delay it. Yeah. And I would hear my voice. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so awesome. And the funny thing is that my web traffic, I had been blogging since 1996. So, over this vast decade of creating content online, I had amassed this massive audience of like 35 people per month that would read my blog. Until this podcast episode where my 3.5-minute audio clip was, I actually got shut down by my ISP. So much traffic to the website that it shut it down. Entertainment Weekly did an entire article on EW.com.
Oh my gosh.
And I had hundreds and hundreds of people emailing me, Cliff, you have to create your own podcast. So that's where it all started, Tim. And what happened was I invited my wife to join me, starting out talking about the TV show Lost, and we recorded a podcast called the Weekly Lost Podcast. By our third episode, we had 27,000 subscribers around the world.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
And we started getting emails from people saying, Cliff, the stuff that you and your wife talk about, it's not like the other podcasts out there about the TV show Lost where they just go scene by scene. I love how when there's an episode called All Good Cowboys Have Daddy Issues, and they actually show that out in the how some of them had daddy issues on the show. But I love that you and your wife talk about your own daddy issues and how you've coped with that and stuff like that. And we talked about all kinds of other things. So we started getting emails. Your podcast is changing my life. You're absolutely changing the way that I think. We started getting emails from people saying, listen, because of you and your wife and your podcast, my kids have a dad again. And this guy tells me about how he walked out on his wife and his kids for a younger girl. And had it not been for our podcast, specifically some of the conversations we had, he would not have realized the errors of his ways. He is back in his kid's life, and he was working on reconciling his marriage. We had people saying, Cliff, because you and your wife, we're now studying Dave Ramsey, and I think we're going to actually become debt-free. That wouldn't have happened. And just email, and of course, I come from a ministry background as well. And I had people saying, Cliff, because of you, I've gone back to my faith in God, and it's just reconnecting at a deeper level than ever before.
Yeah. And
I started asking myself this question, Tim. I wonder what life would be like if I could do this for a living instead of what I was doing, which was I had at that point been working for my mom and dad in a family-run insurance agency owned by my parents that was started by my grandfather in 1937. And I'm like, I'd love to leave the family business. I know I'm next in line to take it over. I know I have the best job security in the world. But I promise you, all of this goes to answer your question. How did I get started as being a life transformation expert and helping in where people see me saying, hey, I trust you to tell me how to transform my life? Because here I had a safe, secure, lucrative, successful career. And I gave it all up because I felt what God wanted me to do in this world was to serve people using my voice by creating content, products, and services that entertain, educate, encourage, and inspire others. I had no idea how to run my own business. Yeah. But after 2 years of podcasting as a hobby, I began doing this full time. Mm-hmm. And then I spent a decade teaching, though I didn't know how to make money. And I had a limiting mindset at the time that didn't believe that I could just get paid to encourage people. No, that's not a marketable skill. People are looking to transform their lives. I'm going to hire a coach. I didn't think that was possible at the time. So a lot of people said, Cliff, I'd love to learn how to do a podcast. And so I spent a decade known as the podcast answer man, where I taught more than 40,000 people in the world how to launch a podcast.
Wow.
And through that process, Tim, I was very focused on helping and serving everyone else, but I was never really focused on taking care of myself. And by the way, is this recording as an audio podcast, or is it going out in video on Facebook and YouTube or whatever?
Oh, it's both. As soon as I saw that good looking face, I'm like, that guy needs to be on YouTube. So we're doing both.
All right. So what I'm going to do for those who are watching via video, I'm going to hold up a picture, but I'll have you describe it. And I want you to be as graphic as you can. You won't hurt my feelings. This is me.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Here, let me switch the view so that everybody can see that better.
Yeah, this is me 5.5 years ago, after a decade of building my own business, serving 40,000 people around the world on successfully launching their podcast. I just sat in my desk, just chunking away, serving others, but never really caring much about myself. And I ended up weighing almost 300 pounds.
Wow.
And obviously, when you have that kind of weight, I wasn't taking care of myself physically, obviously. And so I was starting to have some pretty bad medical symptoms. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted change. I knew, I've transformed so many other areas of my life. Why not this one? So in November 2014, I made the decision, I'm going to work out 6 days a week, every week for the rest of my life. I'm going to study and learn everything I need to learn about eating healthy for energy and eating good nutrition. I want to be a healthy, fit human being. In essence, why did I leave my career in insurance? Because I wanted to help people break free from anything holding them back from living the lives. Now, if I come from a faith perspective, so just understand that's who I am, but I wanted to leave my career in insurance because I felt that podcasting allowed me a greater opportunity to encourage and inspire other people to break free from anything holding them back from living the lives that they were created to live. Mm-hmm. But here I got sucked up in all the, how do I pay for this? Serving so many people that I wasn't there was a lot of areas of my life where I was living, thriving in life, but in my health and fitness, it was clear. This was not the body for which I was created to live in. And so finally I'm like, enough is enough. I know that my credibility in making money is teaching people how to podcast, and it doesn't matter if I weigh 300 pounds or 180 pounds. So it never really bothered me. But man, if I really think about who was I created to be, I didn't leave my career in insurance so I could teach 40,000 people to launch a podcast. I left my insurance career so that I could impact people's lives in a powerful way, fully breaking free from everything. And that includes their beliefs about going to the gym and eating healthy and all this other stuff. And so I decided I need to work on this. And I made that commitment, stuck with it. And I started to ask myself, I wonder if one day I could be known as the fitness answer man or the mindset answer man instead of podcast answer man. And then I'm like, well, why not me? Why can't I? And so I started to pursue that. And I went to a Tony Robbins event, Unleash the Power Within, in June of 2015. Mm-hmm. And dude, I was ripe for that event.
Oh yeah.
And that just transformed my life. And I'm like, okay, I want to do for the next 30 years what Tony Robbins has done for the past 30 years. And that's what I've been doing over the past 5 years.
Yeah. Wow. That's outstanding. That's exactly what happens, right? We usually come from a place where, we've had our pain and we've had our challenges, and then we start asking bigger, better questions. How can I do this? And why not me? Right? If someone's going to do it, how come, it can't be me? And so we decide that it is going to be me. And then once you start to have those breakthroughs, then it's so exciting. You want to share it, right? You want to share with other people. You're like, wow, my mission statement is to help people end needless suffering, right?
Yeah.
Needless emotional suffering. There's going to be pain in life. You're going to have pain, but so much of the suffering we have is needless. And at first it's inflicted upon us, and then we take it over and become the bully of ourselves. And so, your story of how you decided to ask better questions, then you start going to different seminars and have different teachers and coaches like Tony. And that's when it unfolds. And you're like, this is amazing. I want other people to have this.
Yeah.
And that contribution need gets stroked, where you're like, oh my gosh, this feels so good serving others in a bigger way. Not the benefit of having the podcast, but just think about all the people who have been benefited from those podcasts.
Yes.
Right. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a global effect, positive effect that you're having on the world. And that is, that's just, I don't know, there's not a better feeling. And so the fact that you have been able to transform your business, your health, your life. So for those on the radio, Cliff held up a picture of him that didn't look like him. It looked like a really overweight, obese guy. And, and so the fact that you have even, how you transform the inside has transformed the outside. And that is very powerful stuff. So you and I are both, I think of myself as a belief hunter. You probably are too. We're looking for those limiting beliefs, because we know that the only thing that really ever gets in our way is a belief. And when we upgrade that, that's when the doors open. So, so you have some ideas for how to find those limiting beliefs and then upgrade them. So I always love hearing how people do that. So what's your strategy?
Oh, I love this. It came out when I was planning my Free the Dream message, which is, my own version of Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within event. I like to do an exercise where I have somebody take a piece of paper and a pen. And I say, I want you to write 1 through 25 on the front, just starting at the top and go all the way down, because you're going to write things next to each of these. Flip it over and do 26 through 50. Now you have 5 minutes, maybe 10. We'll see how long it takes. You have 10 minutes to tell me 50 things you want. Before you start writing, here's some qualifications. You cannot consider whether or not it's possible. You cannot filter it through any shame or guilt, whether it's materialistic, selfish, or anything. If the thought comes to your mind when you ask your question, or ask the question, what do I want? Then you must write it down. And so that's the first thing I do. And then after they do that, I tell them, I said, okay, take from those 50, what are the top 10? And I tell them, and by the way, I'm only sharing the details of this just in case anybody in the audience wants to go and do this. Mm-hmm. Do your top 10, but here's the stipulation. If something different comes into your mind that wasn't on the list of 50 when you're making the top 10, then if it's in the top 10, put it in the top 10. All right. So you're not limited by what you want from the 50. And then take and do your top 3 and then your top 1. What's the number one thing I most want in my life that's not currently a part of my life? Then you ask this question. What's 1, 2, or 3 things that I could do? What 1, 2, or 3 actions or behaviors could I start that would get me closer to making that a reality? And then what's 1, 2, or 3 actions or behaviors that I need to stop, which will help me get closer to that outcome? And then if you want to, this is where I figure, this is where I found the beliefs hide. In fact, I have a phrase, every excuse exposes a belief. So the next question you ask is, you take the first action that you listed on the things you could start, ask this question, why haven't you already started? The next one, What the second action? Why haven't you already started? And then the behaviors you need to stop, or the streams of income you need to shut down that's taking up 90% of your time, but only giving you 6% of your results financially. Why haven't you already stopped that behavior, that action, that stream of income? Why haven't you already walked away? And what you're going to get when you answer, why haven't you already, you're going to get a list of excuses. And every one of those excuses is really going to help you uncover the beliefs that are holding you back.
Oh, that is so fun and awesome, because I've not heard it in that way. I love how you did that. That was so good. I'm writing it down. So, all right. So I'm going to recap, because I think that's brilliant, right? You can find the answer to anything if you ask the right question. And you just provided some pretty amazing questions to ask. So, all right, so we're going to write down 50 things so that we can really just brainstorm. And then we start to chunk it down. All right, prioritize. What are the most important? Top 10, top 3, top 1. And then your power questions really begin, right? So why do you really want this? Why haven't you, what are 3 things you can do to go after it? Why haven't you gone after it? I love that every excuse exposes a belief, right? I love that, right? A self-limiting belief, because now you know how to find those beliefs, because you'll be like, oh, I don't have the time, or I'm too busy, or, it's not going to work anyway, or I've tried it before, or I'm not good enough, or you don't know my spouse, they're not supportive, or, on and on and on. Fear is finding excuses and reasons, right? So I love that, that formula. It's so simple and yet so brilliant. Yeah. So then people find their reasons. They're like, all right, well, the reason is because I don't think it's going to work out, because nothing ever works out for me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I remember asking Joe Vitale one time, I said, how come some people seem to get what they want and other people don't, even though they're working really hard, they're trying really hard? And what Joe said, he says, Tim, I want to answer, but there's such a high level of victimhood in the question. And I started laughing. I'm like, I know because there's that belief in there, that, poor me. How come I got the short end of the stick, right? How come I'm the only kid that's not Catholic in this school, right? Or how come I'm the kid that everybody's picking on, or whatever it may be. So once they identify that limiting belief, what then?
Well, obviously, if you identify a belief that's holding you back from living the life that you're created, or for those who are non-faith-based, living the life of your dreams that you dream of, whatever the case may be, the question is, once you've identified the belief, I think it's a 4-step process, if I remember it correctly off the top of my head. Number 1, you have to, it's awareness, become aware of the limiting belief. So you've just done that. Wonderful. Step number 2, I believe, is discover the source. All right. You need to understand that this belief is not something you were born with. You adopted it somewhere based upon things that people have said to you in the past, actions that have been taken against you, just things that have been modeled for you, things that you've seen. And sometimes you saw something once and you jump to the conclusion that that's how life is. It never fails. I always talk to people and it's like, well, this always happens to me. Well, name 5 times that's happened to you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there was this one time. Okay. There was that one time. Tell me one other time this has happened to you.
Right.
And chances are it's like, okay, that I created a global belief in one circumstance. It could have turned out a ton of different ways, but it just happened to do it. Anyway, so discovering the source of where this came from. And I find that a lot of our beliefs, the deep beliefs that we're unconsciously aware of or subconsciously, it's just there. We don't consciously think about these things. The beliefs that are driving most of our behavior, I found we adopted when we were kids.
Oh, yeah.
And we weren't thinking rationally back then. We didn't have a lot of experience to judge how the world works. But by golly, 6, 7, 8 years old, for whatever reason, we locked that in. And boy, we've allowed ourselves to say, okay, this is how the world is. I now will stay away from this. I will never do that. I'm never going to do that, because we're always going to try to avoid pain in our life, and we're always going to try to seek pleasure. And we have, from the earliest times in our life, determined that, well, you know what? When you make lots of money, that's going to cause a problem in your marriage. I'm going to tell you a story. I had this belief, Tim, that the more money you make, the worse it is for your marriage, that it will destroy your marriage.
Okay.
And it's like, I didn't think that, like, where does this come from? Why do I have this belief?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, when I started asking myself, why do I have this belief? I remember when I was a little kid, I was probably in my late 20 years, maybe 11, 12 years old, something like that. And I wanted a moped, a Honda scooter, a motorized scooter.
Yeah.
And my mom was fully supportive of me getting this. And my dad was like, we don't have the money for that. And my mom's like, okay, I'll tell you what, we'll create this big, huge, a giant glass jug in the kitchen, and we'll just put all of our change in there. And I remember it had silver dollars, half dollars. That just shows you how old I am. The coinage that we had back then. But this thing was, you could pick it up. It was heavy, right?
Yeah.
And I remember just being in my bedroom one day, and I hear a lot of verbal arguing back and forth, the disagreement in the kitchen. And then I hear this loud scream, and the next thing I hear is glass breaking against the wall, and I hear maybe 150 pounds, I may be exaggerating, but let me exaggerate on this, 150 pounds of change scattering all over a tile floor. And actually, it wasn't the belief that it will ruin your marriage, but actually the belief was the things that I want will break up relationships with people that I care about. And so what happened was, it's like, man, all of that argument between my mom and dad was because of the money that was in that jar. And had I not wanted this moped, my mom wouldn't have been saving that money, and they would have avoided this and so many other financial arguments. How many other times has my wanting things caused a rift in my mom and dad's relationship? And that all of a sudden, I got to the place where I became conditioned to stop wanting things. So, by the way, I want to speak to probably a sizable portion of the audience who's hearing our voice or watching us. There's a number of people who maybe will go through and do this 50 things I want exercise, and you realize that, man, okay, I set a timer for 10 minutes and I couldn't get past 7. And it's because you also have been conditioned over time to think it's absolutely terrible for you to sit there and ask what you want. Who am I to want anything more? I should be content with life. I already have it so much better than everyone else. And so I don't remember what your question was, Tim, but I'll stop.
It doesn't matter. No, keep going. I love the story. This is so deep and so powerful because you're giving an actual example of something that you've been through, which makes it very authentic, and it really pulls at the heartstrings of it. I mean, it's pulling at my heart and everybody else's that's listening, because we can all relate. There's always been something that we experienced when we were young that formulated these ideas in our head, and we did not have the maturity to articulate that, hey, dad's just feeling pressured because he's going through some challenges with money, but we're going to be okay. It's not personal. It's not because of me. What we're doing is we're saying they're fighting and it's my fault. I'm bad.
Yep.
And we're doing it all unconsciously. And then it causes us to set up a whole string of events in our life to try to avoid that pain for ourselves and for other people. If you're not wanting anything, what does that mean? Does that mean you're a better person now? Does that mean that mom and dad won't fight anymore? So my whole life, I struggle with fears and limiting beliefs like that, which is what got me going to school for psychology and learning all the different things and helping people with this. And I remember, as I'm listening to your story, I remember a woman that I was working with, and she realized, she came to me because she was having a lot of challenges in her life. And her belief was she had to be perfect or she wouldn't be loved. And so that feeling of having to be perfect drove her to do way more than she needed to be doing. She was constantly burning out. She was the go-to person. She would never say no. She had horrible boundaries. She would sacrifice herself, her health, her money, her relationships to make other people happy. And half the time that didn't work out anyway. And she had a really hard relationship with her mother. And she always felt like it was her fault. She always felt like it was something that she was doing wrong and she needed to step up and be perfect. And so when we went back and I helped her to recognize where that all came from, it was a similar story, the one that you shared. The details might be a little different, but it's always going back and suddenly you're a kid and you're observing something or you're having something happen. And then we either make up our own meaning or we hear somebody say something and it gets stuck in our mind. And that's when she realized at that moment that that wasn't her stuff. It was her mom's insecurity. It was her mom's limiting beliefs. It was her mom's inappropriate or inability at the time to be able to handle things in a more mature way. And it got leaked onto her.
Yes.
That was not her stuff. And when she, go ahead.
And that's exactly it. So that's the step 2 is to discover the source. Discover this programming code that's been running your life.
Yeah.
It was coded by someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it was
according to whom? That's it's a good phrase. I shouldn't want things. According to who? Right? According to who?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's exact. Thank you for that, because that is the second step, was to find out. The third step is to disassociate from the belief. It's time to break up. It's like I do not believe this anymore. Now that I evaluate this, knowing everything that I know now, how many times have I went out of my way, it just like blown up over something financially and stuff like that? Was it anything because my kids wanted to? No, it's because, I made a mistake or I didn't do this. It's like, there's a lot of other reasons. It's like, so wait a second. It's not because I wanted things that's bad. So wanting things doesn't equal bad. And so now I'm breaking up with the limiting belief. So that's the third step. And then the fourth step, if you really, you've got to fill the vacuum. What I found is that our beliefs that we have lead us to take actions or to avoid action. So, or it leads us to great behavior or bad behavior, one way or the other, the beliefs that we have. And whatever those behaviors are, they meet needs that we have. We all have various needs in our life, for love and connection, for significance, for certainty in our life, variety, growth, contribution. Those are the ones that Tony Robbins likes to talk about a lot. So these behaviors meet needs. Now, the thing is if I get rid of that belief that I have and I break up with it and all of a sudden I'm living out new behaviors, well, the old behaviors were meeting needs. Those needs are no longer being met by those behaviors. What am I going to do? So what I want to do is I want to take the belief that is the void of that belief, and I want to replace it with an empowering alternative belief.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, wanting things equals bad. All right, that was the old belief. No, wanting things is amazing. Here are 5 ways that wanting things adds value to other people's lives, which is my ultimate goal, is contribution, right? So I can contribute to others by wanting things. First and foremost, I just purchased finally an 11-inch iPad Pro 2018 model, 1 terabyte drive with LTE. Oh,
ooh, it's so shiny.
I just got it yesterday and I'm so excited about it. I totally didn't need it. I just wanted it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting
that's how I ended up with these virtual reality headsets.
Yeah, exactly. I already had the 2015 model 12.9 iPad Pro, and there's technically not anything really I could do. I can do with this new one that I couldn't pull off over there. Although it's like, it's just a little bit smaller, more portable, and it's going to have the LTE connection. And so I wanted it.
Yeah.
And then I think about I think about the UPS driver who drove here to deliver it to me yesterday, and the sorter at the UPS facilities, various facilities, the pilot who flew it from China over here, the people who work in China. And I know that there's a lot of controversy about working standards and stuff like that, but the reality is the technology industry has still helped, I think, more than harmed. And so I still look at all the way down. I think about Texas Instruments. A friend of mine is a high up person in Texas Instruments. And there are certain parts where research and development engineers created specific parts inside of this unit. And there's just an incredible number of people. The UPS driver had to fill up the gas station or gas tank on his truck while out doing deliveries, like my iPad. And that gas station owner is probably owned by this Indian couple down the road, which I love this Indian couple. And they actually support an entire family, and they're making a life for themselves. And so just the fact that I wanted this contributed to the economic well-being. See, I have this belief. Money can add value to everyone as long as I allow it to flow through me. And by wanting things and then purchasing them allows the money that I've received to flow straight through to me to bless others.
Yeah.
And by the way, I could go on and on about the alternative beliefs about how me wanting this has caused me to be more productive. I'm excited about it, so I'm doing it.
Why is it that we can put so much energy into defending our excuses, but we're not putting as much energy into why we're defending the beliefs that would serve us? Right?
Yes.
You just did a beautiful job of saying, hey, look at all the people that I'm positively having an impact on because I did something nice for me.
Yeah.
If you put that much energy thinking about, I mean, you're thinking about putting the UPS driver putting gas in the truck and the family that owns the gas station, and how it's touching all these hands all over the world. Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, I should buy myself stuff more often, right?
Yeah. It sounds crazy, but yes.
Well, crazy genius is what it sounds like to me. It sounds like, yeah, crazy awesome. It sounds like this is the way that people who are happy, abundant, who are caring about others, who are adding value to the world, this is how you think. If you want to be one of those people, this is how you think. You stop wasting time holding yourself down. You start spending all that time lifting yourself up, because all boats rise with the tide. And as you're lifting yourself up, you're also lifting others up, because as you said, the money, if you want financial prosperity, you let it flow through you. As soon as you grab a hold of it, it's like holding money or holding water, and you're afraid it's going to leave. So you grab a hold of it. It just squirts through your fingers. Or a friend, Wendy Friesen, is a friend of mine from back in the day. And she said, when you hold on to your money, it's not going anywhere, but nothing else can get back in. And I always thought, oh, that is real. That's a prosperity mindset there. Yes. And
to have the prosperity or the abundant mindset, you need to condition these new beliefs, or it's very possible. Like I said, there are some times when you only had to experience something one time. And if you were in an intense emotional state, you created a neurological association in your brain that this input equals this response physically and emotionally inside of me. Yeah. And all you needed was one time.
Yeah.
But what doesn't typically work, however, is where we think about something, we read a statement. It's like for example, I always have plenty of money for everything I truly want.
Mm-hmm.
Or I always have plenty of time to do all the things I truly care about.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So those are just phrases. And intellectually, I can rationalize that. But unless there's an intense emotional connection, that neuroassociation doesn't just automatically happen. And so it's possible for you to still drive those things deep into to where they are. It's a part of your programming code. And to do that, you need conditioning, which is repeated over and over again. And so one of the things that I like to do is I create an affirmations file. And it's so funny because I'd been conditioned from the time I was a kid, or at least young adult, that affirmations are silly, stupid, and for the emotionally unintelligent.
Mm.
And the reason why, I don't know if you ever watched Saturday Night Live, but there used to be this Stuart Smalley. What is it? I like myself. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, whatever.
People like me.
And people like me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that made fun of that. And all of a sudden, it's like affirmations. Oh, that's silly. That's for people who just don't get it in life or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, oh my gosh, I had to rewire that belief, because I got to tell you, I've got tons of things that I've just memorized. And I used to use this app called Think Up. Have you heard of this app?
I have not.
So go to thinkup.me. So thinkup.me. I don't use this app. I have not used this app in over a year probably, but I used it for at least a year every single day. So you can go in and you can type in your affirmations and you can just read them if you want. But the real powerful thing about the Think Up app is you can you hit record and then you dictate, you read out loud, you saying that phrase, that affirmation. And then what it'll do is it does that for individually for each one. And it'll either do it in the same order every day, or you can tell it to shuffle them, but you're hearing in your own voice, and it automatically mixes in some pleasant music in the background.
Yeah.
You are literally hearing yourself on repeat saying the things that you believe.
Yes. Yeah. Repetition is absolutely a powerful way to start to create that new neural pathway in your brain. So you start to think this way automatically, the way that you think about the other things that you used to think about. Right. And so you're just talking about doing it on purpose now. So repetition, of course, the other way is the same way that you got the other beliefs. If you have some kind of emotional intensity, some kind of charge, which is why, instead of just saying affirmations, you would say it while you're walking or moving or jumping around, because at first you won't believe it, and it doesn't matter if you do. If you're doing something that emotionally, that's why when you go to an immersion event or you have a coaching experience, it's a heightened sense of feeling, which is what allows the new beliefs to take fire and catch hold inside of you, inside of your circuitry, because there's some higher level of emotional intensity. When your dad threw the jar and you hear the jar and the 150 pounds of coins hitting the tile, I mean, that is a strong sensory charge. And that's why whatever thought that was there immediately was accepted. And so we can do that on purpose, using music, using movies, using friendships, using coaching, using immersion seminars and experiences. So I love it. And I'm definitely going to look the Think Up app, the thinkup.me, because, it's a brilliant way of being able to hear it back in your own voice. Because if you think that the idea came from you, you'll believe it faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's truly amazing. So what is it that that you're focusing on currently? What are some things that you've shared? So many great strategies and ideas. I mean, this has just been full of high level content. So what are some things that you're looking forward to in the new decade?
Oh gosh. What I can tell you right now is I had this big grand vision of the future. I still have the vision that I had before, and I'm going to speak it, and people can say and think whatever they want about it, but I still have this vision that one day I will do Tony Robbins style stadium events where tens of thousands of people will be in a stadium, and they actually came there to see me speak. Okay. So the thing is, though, is I actually started a conference. I started a conference called the Free the Dream Conference in 2018, and I've already done 2 of those annual events. We have a Free the Dream 2020 come, but I've shifted my focus, at least for now. What happened was I found that too much of what I was putting into that was actually trying to gain a feeling of more significance in my life.
Sure.
So I don't think that the vision was from me. I feel like if there's ever a time where I feel like it's like God's calling you to gather up all of the Israelites and start heading for the promised land, I don't know. But the thing is, I don't feel like this vision of a stadium event is from me. But I did realize that when I decided to finally accept and embrace that vision of the future, and then I said, okay, now I'm going to make it happen. It started out with pure motives, but turned out to be something less than pure motives. And I started to find out too much of my identity was pulled into this. And I realized that my pursuit of this was outside of my zone of genius. I'm not in a place or in a season of my life where it makes sense for me to pursue that at this time. And it wasn't the greatest impact and influence that I could have. I had already started, when I shut down my podcastanswerman business, I had already started this thing called the Next Level Mastermind. And I had 2 groups with 12 people, where each group had 12 people paying $1,000 a month to be in my mastermind group. And what happened was, as I was pursuing the aggressive marketing, internet tactics to try to figure out how do I fill events, I realized first how much I didn't know about how to succeed in filling an event.
Sure.
But at the same time, I lost all of my focus on connecting with those high power, high profile, high performing clients that trust me. I stopped meeting with them between the meetings. And in a way, they kind of understood and stuff like that. But the thing is after somebody's been in the group for a year, it's a 1-year commitment. You can stay on, and several do. But at that time, it's like after somebody was in the group for a year, I had somebody drop out and I had somebody drop out. And every time somebody dropped out, my income dropped $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't replacing those people because all of my time was over here. I've got to make this happen. It's like, listen, I'm going to make this up in the profit on the event. Well, I didn't profit on the event the first year. And if you think about the opportunity, it's like all of a sudden, it's like, man, my pursuit of significance in making this thing happen, because boy, what would people think about me if I actually pull off stadium events? How awesome would I be then? And in pursuit of that, in 2018, I cost myself $38,000. Now, thankfully, by the grace of God, I have a business that allows me to dig myself out of that kind of hole over the course of just a few months, with a season of tossing work-life balance to the side for a little bit. But thankfully, I got out of that. And I thought, okay, I learned from that. I'm not going to make those mistakes. I'm going to take what I learned. And I did it a second year. And I was about 2 months before the event, and I was on the same path to the same hole. And I'm like, what's happening here? And then my friend Michael Hyatt took me out to dinner. He says, would you like an outside perspective on this? And he says, I know you want impact and influence, but let me ask you, where do you have the most impact and influence? And the question wasn't, are you having impact and influence on we got 87 people who came from around the world the first year and 117 the second year. But the thing is it wasn't whether or not we were having impact and influence in those people's lives, because we were. But the question that was posed to me was, how much impact and influence do you have there compared to the impact and influence of the lives of the people who are paying you $1,000 a month, meeting you every single week in your mastermind group?
Yeah.
And he says, how much impact and influence did Jesus have in this world? And where did he invest the majority of his time, effort, and energy? In the large crowds? Do we read about that all the time? It's not that he never did the large crowd thing, but where did he intentionally choose to invest his time? It's like, wow. And so, Tim, to answer the question to you, what am I most excited about? I am most excited about scaling down and going back to what got me started, and excited about where I am back in 2005. Why did I get so excited and I wanted to leave my career in insurance? Because one person at a time, I understood I was having a significant amount of impact and influence in people's lives. And so for me, I'm most excited about going deeper with a smaller number of people, but not at the exclusion of the larger crowds. I'll still create content for the larger audience, but thankfully, at least in this season of my life, I've once again taken away any desire for significance to come out of it. I came back to the place where, wait a second, I have all the peace, love, joy, significance. I don't lack anything. There's nothing I could accomplish in this world, big or small, that will make me any more or less significant than I already am. And that's what I'm most excited about.
Just that one piece. I want everybody to listen to that and soak that in, because that's true for you as well. No matter where you're at, no matter what you have, no matter what you think you don't have, you can never be more or less significant based on material items, right? Significance comes from beliefs. And if you believe you're already enough and you already have abundance in your life, even I have had to believe that I have abundance in my life and money flows into my life from all directions, and I am loving and I am loved, even when I felt all alone and I had no money coming in. That's when you tell yourself that. People are like, oh, well, it's easy when you got all this money or you're doing all these other things. I was telling myself that when I didn't have any of those things. And you did too, Cliff, and that's how you got to where you are. So the beliefs come, and then the behaviors, and then the outcomes or the rewards that come from that. So I love what you just said. I think that it's so powerful. It's next level thinking, because I would have heard that maybe in my 20s or 30s and thought, yeah, okay, but I still want to go after my big dreams too and try to be the next Tony Robbins. I think a lot of people want that. But as you get older, you get a little bit more gray in your hair, or, not as much hair. Then all of a sudden, you start trading in significance for love and contribution, love, connection, and contribution. And instead of how do I make it about the me show, how do I keep serving those around you and help them feel like the star? You
Yeah.
be the puppet master and let everybody else go out there and be the star. And then that's when Zig Ziglar's advice kicks in, that when you help enough other people get where they're going, they will put you on their shoulders and take you wherever it is that you want to go. And you would not have been able to get there by yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can I have an amen?
Amen.
That's awesome. That is so good. All right. Well, I think that's fantastic that you're doing that. And, the priority often becomes, how do I have a sense of peace so I'm enjoying the ride instead of, going through life wondering if I'm climbing up the right ladder or not. So if people want to learn more about you or more about what you have to offer, you've got a lot of different places they could go. What would be the best place for someone to start now that they know who you are? Where should they go next?
Yeah, the best place to go would be mindsetanswerman.com/free.
Okay.
And what I encourage people to do is to go to that page, and you will see a 90-second video clip of me tearing up $300 cash and just throwing it away. And then you'll understand, what you'll learn is why I was doing that. And I used to have a very bad habit of throwing money in the trash. And I learned that it was my beliefs that were causing that. And at the top of that page, it says, if you give me 60 minutes, I promise you it will change your life. And I'm going to ask you for an email address at the bottom of that page, all that internet marketing stuff. But here's what I want to tell you. If you watch that video and it doesn't change your life, I want you to instantly go and unsubscribe from my list. Because you don't need a liar and a charlatan like me in your life. But my guess is that it will be a powerful thing for you. If you've heard anything, if anything that I've said here has resonated with you, that's the best place to go. And then I'll show up in your email box every Monday morning with a word of encouragement. I want to entertain, encourage, inspire, and motivate you to live the life of your dreams.
Outstanding. I love that. So mindsetanswerman.com/free. Watch Cliff throw money away just by tearing it up. If you want to watch me do that, check out when I advertise with Facebook, and you can see the same thing. And so, but I love that. I think that's great. It's bold, it's powerful, and I believe you. When you say you spend an hour with me and I will change your life, I believe you. And I hope that our listeners believe you as well, and they go check that out. So I'm going to do it as well. And we're just going to get on the Cliff wagon and keep riding that, because I love what you're all about. I love what you stand for. I understand why everybody, appreciates you so much now that I've got to spend some more time with you. It's just awesome. So 2 more questions real quick. If you could go back in time and tell that little boy that you once were, you could give him some advice. What advice would you give him based on what you have learned through your journey?
You can do anything that you can dream of doing. Everything is within your power. And if I could tell if I had just an extra moment or two with myself, I would say, listen, you will always have plenty of money for anything and everything you ever want in life, as long as you are devoted to adding value to other people's lives, because that's where the money comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And love, right? You could substitute money for love or kindness,
all the resources,
compassion, all of that. I love that. Yeah. That you can do whatever you put your mind to, and that you'll always have enough as long as you keep focusing on adding value.
Yeah.
I love that.
I have this belief today that if you can dream it, chances are that dream you didn't make up. It's from within you, and it might actually be a seed that was planted and it's just been waiting to germinate. And as soon as the dream comes to you, that's why I love to ask this question: what do you want? And it's wild. I did this at Free the Dream, the 50 question, or the 50 things you want. And this guy, his name is Daryl Darnell, and he one of the things just randomly popped into it's like, hey, I want this MG British car, like an antique MG. I don't even know if I'm saying the name of it right. But he like, that was just one thing he wrote down. Several months later, it's sitting in his driveway. It's just
Yeah.
like, it's crazy. I love asking, what do I want? And
Yeah.
in essence, dream bigger dreams, rediscover your ability to dream big dreams, and anything you can dream. I used to hear it and I'm like, that's so stupid. Anything you can dream, I believe you can achieve.
Well, and then when you start backing up with reasons for why it's true and why you're going to test it and why you're going to find out, instead of coming up with all the reasons for why it won't happen, you're going to use the same amount of energy. You might as well direct it, because if you intentionally direct it, because if you are, if you're right and it doesn't work out, well, you're just where you are. But if you're wrong, you put all this energy into finding out and you end up achieving all your dreams and making them come true. It'll be the best thing you ever did. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
We got it's
I
2020.
love people says, well, there's no way I can write a book. I don't have time. My computer broke down and it's blah, 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 blah. And I think about Nick Vujicic.
Yeah.
Check out lifewithoutlimbs.org.
Oh yeah. Him on, you'll see him on a surfboard, right?
Yeah. Well, and the dude's written 5 New York Times bestsellers. And did you know he typed them himself?
Oh, I did not.
That's
Because he has no arms, no legs. Just for anybody that doesn't know.
No legs.
He's a motivational speaker.
He has no arms, no legs, and he's written 5 New York Times bestsellers. And what I read is that he actually has typed those himself. I don't know if he dictated them. He actually does have like 2 little nubs where his leg would be or something like that. And
yeah.
But here's what I can tell you. You argue for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I like that. I got to write it down again. I'm taking lots of notes. Argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. So is that what you want? Right. And I love just the simple question, what do you want? Because most people are so focused on what they don't want that they don't really know what they do want. And that's why they have more of what they don't want. So, yeah, that's amazing.
I like the question, what do you want, more than what's your dream? Or what do you want to do with your life? Because
the dream doesn't really, the dream is what you think you need to have in order to have what you really want.
That's right. Yeah. And it's usually the things that you want are the hidden clues that if you were to begin to start pursuing them, you start to discover things about yourself that you didn't know. It's like, why do I get so excited when people tell me that they heard my voice? It's like the funny thing is, Tim, is I'm sitting here, what I do for a living today is I use my voice to encourage and inspire people. And I get paid more today than I could have ever dreamed possible to sit here and encourage people, either through content for audio podcast, YouTube, Facebook Live, or one-on-one coaching via Zoom call. But I'm sitting here talking into this microphone, making a living, encouraging people. Now get this, I can go back to my earliest memory of a toy and joy in my life was a toy called Mr. Microphone. I was probably 3 or 4 years old.
Sure.
I handheld it. It had the aluminum antenna, and I could FM broadcast to the little boom box here. And it's like,
great.
And I told you, I remember calling into the radio station, hearing my voice on the radio. That doesn't make everyone excited. I've learned since, some people are terrified by that.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was a kid, I had a CB base station that my mom had, and I learned that I could click this microphone and I could talk to people all throughout the geographic region. And I could actually, and I did what was illegal at the time, which I would actually hold it down for 25 minutes. And every Tuesday night, I'd broadcast my own illegal pirate radio show.
Oh, wow.
On Citizens Band Radio.
That's amazing.
The funny thing is, these are just little things. I never once thought about those things until later in life. Like, there have been clues all along the way that this was the path. This was the germination of something that was, I think, put inside of me from the beginning. It's
like seeds in the soul, right? There are seeds in your soul, and they've been there germinating and waiting to grow, and it's been inside of you. It's fun that I remember the Mr. Microphone. I had one of those. And I remember as I'm listening to you, I was like 7 years old, and my first friend when I was 6 years old, his name was Glenn Curtis. He was my very first friend, and I had a birthday party, and he was a couple of years older than me, and he gave me a Kiss album. And I didn't know who Kiss was, but I just remember there, Peter, Chris, and all these, the 4 faces of the people on the band. And it just seemed cool. And he was excited about it. So it made me excited about it. And I was just touched that someone did something nice for me. And then I would remember we'd be in the backyard standing on a picnic table with baseball bats, pretending that we were the band. And we had a couple girls in the neighborhood that would come over and watch. And I love the idea of getting up there and performing, getting up there and entertaining and people laughing and people having fun. And I felt so good. And now fast forward, I'm on the stage bouncing around, and doing the same thing. I'm not pretending that I'm Gene Simmons anymore, but, and I'm not pretending that I'm Tony Robbins anymore either.
Right.
I had a coach one time that said, we already have a Tony. We need an authentic Tim.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, so I love this, how those seeds have always been within you. And if you look back and you connect those dots, a lot of times we look back and we look at all the painful things in our life, but there's also those moments of joy, of happiness, of connection, of inspiration that we can draw from. And when you're able to take a look at that and continually ask yourself, what do I want now and why do I want it? And how will I know that I have it? These are very powerful, wonderful questions to direct you moving forward.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So everybody, we got to make sure that we check out mindsetanswerman.com/free. I'll make sure it's in the show notes. Cliff Ravenscraft. Cliff, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of this program today. I've loved every minute of it. Thanks for all the high value content and ideas, and for you being who you are, because obviously you work harder on yourself than you do on your business, and it shows. And so thanks for showing up in a big way in this world of ours.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's been an honor.
Thank you. And everybody that's been listening, Cliff and I, we do this because we care about you. So I hope that you've taken a ton of notes. If you are listening to this while you're driving, you need to listen to it again when you're at home so that you can take lots and lots of notes the same way that I did, and then go check out Cliff's stuff and hang out with him on social media. And then we will see you again in the next episode. So thanks so much. Apply what you've learned, and your life's going to be a mesmerizing, sure success. Talk to you soon, everybody. Bye. Hey, it's Tim Shurr. Would you like to learn my best secrets for how to be mesmerizing? Then head over to www.survivingtothriving.me and download a free copy of my Mesmerizing Mindset Secrets. That's www.survivingtothriving.me. I'll see you there.